Saludo mi gente. How are you doing? I wanted to get this reading out before I'm about to head out, get some errands done and head to my dad's. And I wanted to get our reading done. I just did a video. I was going on a mad ass rant about time, and perception and all of those things. And so I just wanted to really get to the meat and potatoes, if you will, of our reading for the full moon in Libra. Libra being a sign, an air sign, a sign of balance. There's a lot of things, again, happening in the cosmos. There always is, right? Like at any of our human concept of time, anytime, any minute, there's always things going on that are supporting our evolution, our growth, our change. And this full moon in Libra is landing in simultaneous relationship with, in the Jewish calendar, we are now counting the Omer, and we are in the vortex of Passover. Passover is this imagining, if you will, a story of a culture, of a people, and how the process of being kind of renewed, right, or reoriented in your world is in this dimension will require times in which you it's so interesting to think about it as well, because the story of Passover is for, as Jews, we're remembering our ancestors and their particular journeys of liberation. And there's a lot of ways that you can look at this, and there's a lot of things that are problematic in the stories, as any history story or story of any particular culture or peoples can have, you know, all those ups and downs. Having said that, what I find really beautiful in this story is that it speaks to us in this dimensional process, in this dimension, this earthy one that we're here, this projection, that in order for you to actually shift your consciousness, you will literally have to go through a process and a journey. You will literally have to have moments of solitude, and solitude is different than feeling alone, and different than isolation. And that there are times where there are aspects of yourself in a journey that you're going to have to leave behind, that you're going to have to give up in order to get to the place where you've expanded your consciousness, where you're able to be hella intentional, right? Like you are looking, you're strategizing how you're moving in the world, and you're no longer like moving in a way that leaves you unconscious, right? Like you're intentional about what you do. And you're also able from that positionality to exercise more, I want to say, magic. And what I mean by magic is really the mystery of how anything's done other than the realm that we see, right? And so I believe that there's so many ways to show up magically, and so many ways to be connected and create in that way. But to honor that magic is creative, right? It's creative force, it's creative energy. It's the thing that created the waters in the beginning type of thing, right? The thing that aligned the stars and the cosmos. And I think that when we're looking at this idea of being willing to shift into a different way of being, seeing, and perceiving the world we live in both our internal and external inhabitation, that is going to require a recentering and a reorientation over a period of cycles in order for you to actually get to the place where you're living into the imagining that you have in your heart, wherever that particular location is for you. And so Passover gives us a lot of that. And so now we count the Omer, which is really about a harvest festival, right? And then we come into Shavuot, which is in our like cosmology is when the Torah was given, etc. And when we reap the harvest. The reason why this all becomes important is because these are all containers. It doesn't matter the culture. When they have these ancient stories, they're containers and frames and contexts that allow us to both kind of dream of more and imagine more, and simultaneously also create something entirely different versus what has been done, right? And as an Aquarius, and the work that I do in the world and how I am in this world, to me, it's really important not to do the same thing over and like expect different results. And I think that that's something that we can get caught up in. So back to the cards. So for this full moon in Libra, again, a time of completion. We're closing out. The new moon is coming soon, right? We're in that type of cycle where we get to evaluate if the intentions or what we wanted to create or be in kind of resonance with, amplify, you name it, whatever your intentions are when you start, in your cycles of the new moon. So we have as our focus, right, the Star Brothers card. This set is by Rebecca Campbell, and I would love to tell you off the top of my head, but I can't tell you what deck it is. But anyways, I think it's the Star Seed. I'm not going to leave it alone. I think it's the Star Seed deck, which is really beautiful. And our focus is actually, like I was saying, the Star Brothers. It's Horus energy, protection, loyalty, safety, and trust. And so I think what's so interesting about this card coming out right now, especially with like Libra full moon and this idea of balance and all the shit that's happening cosmologically, really thinking about what are new ways that you can anchor. And I want to be mindful with this word anchor because I use it a lot in terms of grounding. But I also want to be careful that when you anchor, you can anchor in a way that secures you without the ability to move or grow. And I think that deserves a little bit of attention, right? But how do you create a container for yourself to inhabit the fullness of what you're meant to be expressing, the fullness of how you're holding, the fullness of what's next for you? And it's so hard to speak with very like these language cues of time orientation, right? Because it's linear, like what's next means that you're somewhere, there's a behind, before or after kind of thing. And so what I want to do is constantly, not only myself and my own mind, but in my work, constantly shift how we're imagining things so that we can actually be freer to evolve, grow, and change. So when I say context and how are you creating safety and trust for yourself in the world, despite not having external things to do that for you, right? So for example, we have homes. Homes are a thing that may provide us a sense of safety, a sense of trust, right? Because we come to the same place and we leave, etc. But that also can be very limiting, right? If you haven't done work internally around kind of clearing the relationship you have to the past or to trauma in the past, shifting that, so that you're able to create from a clearer, cleaner place and not reactively to what you experienced in the past, which is really a mind fuck, right? And so when we're looking at protection, loyalty, safety, and trust, what I want to ask you is, in terms of balancing out your relationships, your movement, what you're creating, how are you doing that? How are you building trust, loyalty, and safety for yourself? And how are you doing that when you're creating container for others? How are you actually taking the time for yourself and saying, how am I creating that supports a sense of feeling safe in my work? Is your work, is your channeling, is the things that are coming through you, being moved through you, are they safe with you? Do you honor them? Are you caring for them? Are you building in a way that has this consciousness that you've been given? This is that old kind of mindset, right? You've been given these gifts. It's your responsibility to care for them. It's also your responsibility to be loyal to that and to trust the process. How are you actually being with that? Is that something that's actually living and you're examining and giving it attention, right? Tending to that. Tending to the idea that the vision that you've been given, the work that you do, however that looks, it doesn't have to be like narrowed or specific, but that you can be entrusted with stories, people's stories. You can be entrusted in making sure you have checks and balances in how you're moving, what you're speaking, and what you're creating with your words. And it's really interesting. Last night I was Yesterday I was talking about something, and I was kind of naming that I'm probably not in a good place to be around other humans in that way, out in society in any way, although I still have to engage, just because my capacity is really low with what's going on with my dad and stuff like that. And so I'm just, I'm walking through it. This is what walking through it looks like, for me at least. And what I noticed last night is by the time I got to bed, I was like, I think I want to be mindful of the language that I'm using for how I feel, maybe feeling frustrated, or how I'm needing just more cushion, more gentleness, also more mindful, like engaging when I'm outside or when I'm doing something, because I'm in a very vulnerable place and tender. And so it makes me kind of think of that, like, how am I being loyal to myself, to my process? How can I build trust with myself, and even my communicating of my emotions or my feelings, right? And so the card to embrace, which I absolutely love, let me show you the Horus card. There you are, which is extraordinarily beautiful. The card that is the thing that we need to embrace is this lovely one, which I'm so digging it. I hope that you can see that clearly. And what it says is, you are not for everyone. Embrace your weirdness and face your true north. Sometimes we can get really stuck on how different we are. And it's super highlighted when you don't live surrounded by people that are willing to be different than the construct, different than the normative, why, all of that, all of the stuff, abled body kind of, all of that. When you don't fit those models, we often feel like we're weird, right? Or we're strange. And we've gotten to the place in our evolution where we're like, no, it's great to be weird and strange, not a problem. I'd rather be weird and strange than anything else. But here's the thing. It doesn't actually feel great when you're experiencing like pushback or resistance and or assumptions and projections because you're different. And so I think the reason why we're being asked to embrace that we're not for everyone is that so that we can stop trying to meet and be for everyone. And while there may be aspects of your life where you have cleared that type of narrative out, there may be others. So be on the watch out for where you are actually, which goes into our focus, right? Where you're actually unsafe with yourself because of how you're naming your difference, how you're naming the thing that you're supposed to be here to do, how you speak of yourself, how you speak of others, which is really challenging, really challenging. And the reason why I say it's challenging is because so many of our thoughts are unconscious. 57 to 70,000 thoughts a day is what the human brain is manufacturing. Conscious and unconscious thoughts. So much more weighty than we're imagining. But embracing that you're not for everyone, and embracing that you are responding, you can be entrusted with the mission of the work and the being that you're meant to be here in this dimension and in all the dimensions, and having the courage to embrace that and to stand with that is possibly the biggest gift you can give yourself. Unparalleled to any other gift in the world, because more often we're asking others to accept what we ourselves will not embrace, what we ourselves are constantly in rejection of. And so we experience rejection in other relationships because there's still this element in which we're rejecting ourselves, even if that means that we're holding on tightly to the narrative of like, I am, I'm just different. And so the way you behave and the way you engage is always with that edge of how different you are. And in some ways that also becomes a block for you allowing people in because you're so used to being by yourself. You're so used to being different, the odd person out. So be careful how the narratives become reactive and not responsive. The thing that we're meant to release, we're meant to let go of. These cards are kicking ass right now. And again, full moon, completing. You are not alone. Isolation, physical connection, and community. I love this because, again, being able to really take the time to think of what we mean by saying, I feel alone or I'm alone, in addition to what are the actual emotions that are present for that have nothing to do with loneliness. They have to do with connection. And Can you release like your imagery, your picture of what it looks like to be connected or it looks like to be alone, and shift that narrative to what do I need to connect? What type of connection am I actually longing for that I don't have as an experience in my life? I think my battery is really low. I cannot see. Let me pause. Okay, so I had to reset, which I'm probably crooked here. This is so frustrating sometimes, trying to navigate the world of like, can I get something set up in a way that I don't have to keep on trying to fix it? Anyway, all right, I'm just going to finish up with my last thoughts about this. So, are you willing to surrender the idea and the narrative of aloneness, and really, because alone creates a singularity, right? We are not singular. We are actually connected to, whether we acknowledge it or not, to a multiverse, right? And so how do we shift and release the idea that we are, alone, and really start thinking about that what we're talking about is the quality of connection that exists in our lives, or the lack of it, right? And that the connections that we may have are not nourishing our sense of belonging, which is actually what's happening for us. And so what I want to offer up is this idea of thinking just a little bit much more deeply about what does connection look like for you? What does it mean to you? And I offer this from a perspective that it's not going to take you like overnight. You're going to just like list out, oh, this is what connection means. I want you to look, and I'm going to be doing this myself as well, for between this full moon window up until the new moon window, which we're already like progressed. So this video is a little late, which is fine, or it's on time, in time. Really observing daily, how are you actually connecting to spirit, connecting to other humans, connecting to your environment? What does that look like? What doesn't it look like? And what do you need actually? What is the texture of your connectivity now? Because that's how you release the narrative of aloneness. It's actually because you shift your belief in relation to that, what you actually think it means. We're meaning making machines. And so everything that you do or do not do, or say or do not say, has connectivity itself to a frame of thought. Everything you do has meaning, except you're just not accessing the part of your brain that's understanding the meaning behind things, because you're just moving kind of robotically, right? So our cards again, how are you being trusting, protective, and loyal to yourself, to the work that you do, to the beliefs that you have, to the value system you profess? How are you embracing that you're actually not for everyone? And if when you cease to want to be for everyone, or want to create a world in which you feel understood by everyone, when you release that, then that when you embrace the fact that you do not need to do that, but that who you're for will show up, that's one. Now, if we can shift that, embracing your unique signature and your unique expression in the world, it's not generative to do that in reactivity either, because you're still buying, co-signing, and giving into the way the world has rejected you, because this construct rejected you because you don't fit, and then you make that your identity, rejection and not fitting, versus respecting and embracing that you're here to do a thing and to be a thing, and that is your ultimate job. Your job is to do and be the thing you are, right? And that whether people like you or not, that doesn't become the essence of anything anymore, because you're clear that how you are is what's needed in the world, and you're a large piece of weaving a world to come type of thing. Again, our releasing, letting go of, is the idea that you are not alone. And what you're letting go of is that you think you're alone, that I think I'm alone. And what that does is also negates our connection to the spiritual realm and to the idea that we're here with purpose and intention, not just like dropped, right? Just dropped somewhere. But that What we are actually needing to examine is what is the texture of our connection? How do we feel connected? How don't we feel connected? What does connection mean to us now versus what it may have meant to you 10 years ago? What are the quality of your connections to your environment, your world, your cosmos, your belief systems, your value systems, your work in the world, your relationships? You do not only have relationships with human beings. You actually have relationship, whether you like consciously know it, acknowledge it or not, with a tree, with the grass, with the earth that is holding you, with the gravity that is keeping you here. No gravity, our asses are floaty motherfuckers, right? So allowing yourself to really begin to reorient your idea of connection and ask yourself, what are the ways that you actually need to tend to your connection? Rather than, I'm alone. You're not alone, but then what is the real question, and what are we really saying, and what are we really asking? Last but not least, we have the bottom card of the deck, which I always love to look at as a supporting energy. Here it is, which looks very beautiful. Your life is a canvas. Artist, manifestation, creative accountability. Your life is a canvas. Full moon in Libra, completion, closing out. What is the picture that you actually want to paint and that you actually want to gather energy, resource as you do this thing, right? Like aligning your day and aligning your life to it. That is my reading and channeling for this full moon in Libra in the month of April. And the deepest gratitude for your presence here, for your connection, for your care, and your support. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.